You're gonna need a bigger boat.
That sequence was from the original Jaws movie, if you have not seen it. Maybe if you watched a documentary on TV about sharks, or if you're a fan of Shark Week, which is going on actually as we speak. Great thing to learn about some sharks there. If you've ever wondered how sharks find their food or even just navigate the open ocean, the fact that the open ocean is basically a formless, seamless, big blue nothing. There's no landmarks. Food is very difficult to find, and there's nothing around for, in some cases, thousands of miles to use as a landmark. I've been studying sharks for about 40 years. I went to school for marine biology, and I'm currently enrolled at UMES as an environmental science major with an emphasis on marine ecology. I have found through the years that sharks have one of the most impressive combinations of senses in the animal kingdom. Today I want to talk about the vast array of senses that sharks have. Sharks have 5 senses. They have sight, smell, hearing, touch, and taste. The same 5 that we do. But they also have 2 other senses that we have, and the senses that we share, sharks actually have a much more developed senses in those particular senses. Let's talk about the sight. Shark eyes are very similar to humans actually. They're more adapted for life underwater, but they have a lot of the same features that we do. They have a pupil that dilates, number one. It allows them to let in more or less light depending on the situation. Lower animals do not have this, and some higher animals like bony fish also do not have it. So it's a pretty advanced adaptation. They also have more rods than cones, which allows them to see better in low light situations than we do. And they also have something called a tapetum lucidum, which is very similar to what cats have. And what it does is it reflects the light back from the retina back to the lens. It's the thing that makes their eyes glow. They see about 10 times better in dark than we do. Deep water sharks, that's actually a higher number, but with all sharks, they see about 10 times better than we do. They also have a nearly 360-degree sight radius. They can see in front, above, below, to the sides, and behind them at the same time. Sense of smell. Shark smell is pretty legendary, and you may have heard the claim that they can detect blood in 1 part per million, which is basically 1 molecule of blood for a million molecules of water, which is pretty impressive, but it's not true. Shark senses are actually much more sensitive than that. They can actually detect blood in 1 part per 10 billion parts of water. Their sense of smell is one of the best in the animal kingdom. Their olfactory organs actually take up about 60% of their brain, and in some cases as much as 66% of their brain. And they also only use their noses to smell. A lot of animals, like humans, birds, other mammals, reptiles, use their noses for breathing and smelling. Sharks have gills, so their noses are used to do one thing and one thing only, and that's smell. Shark hearing. Shark hearing is focused more on lower range frequencies. Human range is between 25 and 16,000 hertz, and shark range is between 10 hertz and 800. And they're much more responsive to frequencies less than 375 hertz. Basically, those frequencies travel further in water. They can hear things up to a kilometer away or more. And also those vibrations tend to be made by struggling fish. Let's talk about touch. Sharks are covered with thousands of dermal denticles, which aid in hydrodynamics and are very tough and can be very abrasive. Under that skin, though, they have thousands of nerve endings that work the same way that ours do. They can detect touch and everything else. Some species have more of these around their mouth where they stir up the bottom of the ocean, and they have very sensitive feelers where they can actually feel their prey. They also have the same type of nerves in their teeth because their teeth are basically modified dermal denticles. So they can actually feel, and almost when they bite something, they can actually feel what they're biting through their teeth. And that's one of the reasons that sharks actually mouth things. They don't have hands, so their mouth is one of the ways in which they can test things out and see what it is. Taste. Taste, at this point, there's not a lot known about shark taste other than the fact that it's very sensitive to fat. Sharks tend to have a high fat diet to keep their energy levels up. And also, their taste buds are not limited to their tongue. They actually are covered the entire inside of their mouth, including their tongue, but it's on the roof of their mouth and the sides of their mouth, so their taste buds are everywhere. From this alone, we can see that sharks have an amazing sense of senses. They can detect stuff that we can't. They can see better. They can hear better. They can smell much better than we can. But they're not limited to just those 5 senses. What comes next is just amazing. The lateral line is their 6th sense. And what that is basically, it's a line of pores in their skin that runs almost the entire length of their body. And with that, they can feel changes in water pressure. They can feel something without touching it, just from changes in water pressure. They can also feel small changes in ocean currents using this lateral line, and it keeps them going where they need to be going and keeps them from bumping into things even in complete and total darkness. And lastly, and maybe their most impressive sense of all, is the ampullae of Lorenzini. And what they are is basically thousands of pores that pick up on electrical fields that are generated. Electrical fields are generated by all living things, just in a very minute amounts, from muscle contractions, from the beating of your heart, breathing, blinking your eyes. Everything creates an electromagnetic spectrum. Sharks can detect something as small as 5 nanovolts, which is 5 billionths of a volt. Hammerhead sharks, however, are more sensitive than that. They can detect up to 1 nanovolt. And one of the reasons they have the big hammer is to spread out the ampullae of Lorenzini, and it makes them incredibly sensitive. Not only that, it's a built-in compass. They can actually detect the electromagnetic spectrum of the Earth and use it to migrate. It's almost a highway. Nothing in the animal kingdom comes remotely close to the sensory arrays that sharks possess. As you can see, sharks have a vastly superior sensory array to humans, and in fact, all other animals on the planet. With such an array of highly tuned senses, it's no wonder that sharks are at the top of the food chain worldwide. Can you imagine what it would be to have the kind of senses that sharks have? To hear something hundreds of yards away, to be able to sense a person in pitch blackness just because of the electric field they give off, or to feel the side of a wall just because of the air pressure, or to see 10 times better at night. There's no wonder that sharks are an apex predator in all the oceans, because there is literally nowhere to hide from them.